It's time for the weekly closes on our favorite Bitcoin miners. Let's see what's going on here as we enter the last leg of the 4-year push. But before we get going, check out the channel memberships. You get your best bang for your buck at the stalagmite level there with the real-time trade posts. We made over $1,000 in there on Friday with a Tesla call, and we're doing a lot of other interesting things in there right now as well. So go ahead and check that out. If you want to just support the channel at other levels of membership, we've also got Soda Straw, where you get the badges, you get emojis, early access to videos while they're processing up to HD. So that's about 20 minutes on the general public, plus priority reply to comments and stalactite. If you want to support just a little bit more, you get all that you get in Soda Straw plus member shout outs. Let's get into the weekly closes. We're going to start with Clean Spark, as is tradition. And right now it's not looking too bad. It's really not looking too bad. We engulfed 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of candles. We have got a bullish engulfing of 4 weeks of price action last week. We came up to the 50-week moving average. This is the EMA exponential moving average. If you want to see the simple, I can put that on as well, which is basically in the same spot. All right. So we got above that, or we came up to it, I should say. Excuse me. And that's at 1040. We're currently at 1035. You can see this big piece of volume right here, right where we are right now, between 914 and about 1077 is that big volume. Once we get above that, we've got room very easily to slice up to about $12, where we have a little bit of resistance before we enter into the next pocket that can take us as high as 16. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the lines I've got here. So we've broken this downtrend here. We've broken this downtrend. As long as next week does not come back down, we've officially broken that downtrend. We are back above the yellow here, and we are technically right on the blue. So if we can get above that blue, we can see ourselves moving up towards that 1070 to get above that, right? And then that $12 where we get that spike on the volume profile there on the right. In fact, let me go to the one that doesn't move here. Let me do, this one's just 200. So the blue one is just looking back 200, whereas this one with the red and the green, that is more visual, like whatever's on screen is going to impact how that moves. So if we bring more in, yeah, see, it moves. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes I like the blue one. It depends on how I'm feeling. Right now I want to see the blue one because I'm going to move around a lot and I don't want to see it move. Anyways, yeah, similar levels though, right? 1066, 1070, and then again at about $12, and then again up here at about 1574, up to about the equilibrium at about $17 on the weekly volume profile, with the fixed one that's looking back just 200 periods. All right, 200 candles basically. You can see that the BX trender turned light red. So we went from dark red to light red. So we've been falling on volume since July 21st. And this is the first week that we had higher buying pressure or lesser selling pressure, whatever. We're flipping. The pressure is flipping from a selling to a buying mentality here. Hopefully we see that continue and we get a green one next week. And I would be eyeing this 15, 16, maybe even up as high as 20 on Clean Spark here for that. We did not come down to this white line, which is interesting. I was kind of thinking we might when we lost this blue one right here. So when we lost this blue line, I was thinking we might beeline it straight into this white one here into October and then bounce off of it. But the fact that we're finding a home here, not going underneath these lows right here, basically 856 is a bit of a line in the sand. If we get a closure under 856, we're definitely going to hit that white line. But since we didn't, we came close, but we didn't, and we're holding this support right here. We're holding the support from these candles right here. If we can go up off of this falling wedge right here, we can go up off of that falling wedge, we could easily find ourselves right back up at $13, $14 pretty quickly, and potentially even eclipse this high here and go up to 1644, which is kind of my theory right now, largely due to the fact that we're in that upswing on M2 money supply, on global liquidity right now. And I'll bring that up. I'll put that on right now so you can see what I'm talking about. We're in the upswing for global liquidity. Where's it at? Okay, this looks weird on this chart, so I'm going to need to go to the Bitcoin chart for that one. So we'll look at that in a second. We'll look at that before the next miner, just to give you that. And I've talked about it plenty of times. If you've been on the channel, you know what I'm going to say. But I'm going to say it anyways. Anyways, we've got also this potential inverted head and shoulders right here, right? That inverted head and shoulders. And if that breaks, right? So this is going to be an angled neckline right here, angled neckline. Okay. So what we're going to do is go from the bottom to the neckline, and that could take us back up into this, up to as high as $20.81. So we could be hitting $20 just off of this inverted head and shoulders, and that would take us right into this supply zone up here, which I think CleanSpark is probably going to struggle with a lot. I don't know if we're going to get above $20. Like, I don't know if over 20 is really a possibility unless it really goes hard. Like, it's got to ramp hard above it. So as you notice, like, we've only ever wicked up there to $18 since November of 2024. That was the last time. So we might come up here. We might get a blow off top, right? We might get that blow off, and it might come as high as 24. It might really get crazy, especially if they start doing HPC. Now let me turn on the fib cloud. Yeah, maybe pushing 25, 26 is possible. Maybe if we go to a 2-week and see like maybe 30 on the high end, but I wouldn't be expecting a lot more. Let me turn off some stuff though. Let me turn off some stuff here. No, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come up to about 21 and fail, to be honest. That's kind of what I'm looking at for CleanSpark. But 20 and fail on the warrants. If it goes up to 20, the warrants will likely be revisiting this high up here at 160, potentially push into the $2 range. That'd be very nice. I'm still holding about 15,000 of those. I let go of them around, a good amount of them at around 37 cents. It's currently back up to 50 cents. So I dropped half my stack on the way down at about 37 cents to protect myself from that fall in case it went really, really low. And then I could pick up more, and I'm still holding half that stack, and I've been adding CleanSpark calls as CleanSpark has been coming up. Instead of buying more warrants, I've been buying calls on CleanSpark. That's been how I've been getting back into it, and how I avoided that drop in my account. So I had that cash liquid at that point, and I could go into CleanSpark. I went into BMNR with it. I'm looking at Zone with it, those things. And of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. You always got to do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and you always got to be responsible for your own risk. Investing is risky. You could lose it all. Okay, so that's CleanSpark I'm looking at. Honestly, we get above 56. I'm looking at 72 on the warrants, and that'd be pretty exciting for the amount that I have. And I might be looking at more calls, but I'm getting more into treasuries right now, and we'll talk about that. But real quick, we're going to pop over to Bitcoin real quick, and we're going to do the daily, and we're going to do the global liquidity. And just a reminder of how that is going right now. Okay, if I could do this properly, that would help. Okay, just a little reminder of how this liquidity is looking right now. Okay, let me go about right there and about right there. Okay, there we go. So the big move in the liquidity, came kind of already into July, and then we got that sell-off, and we're finally, so the bottom of that sell-off on the liquidity was in August, but we kept selling off until September 1st. And we're just barely getting into this move up in the liquidity right now, and you can see we are probably, I wouldn't be surprised if we went as far as like October, like mid-October to the 3rd week of October before starting to come back down with this liquidity. And if you notice, the liquidity doesn't really come back down to this low here. Like, there is that little spike down at the beginning of November, which could happen, and we see a quick sell-off and then recovery, but the rest of this really isn't that far down from there. If we start to see liquidity over here start to recover and come up, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin make that move even higher. So let's go ahead and right here, from right there to there, let's see that liquidity move is about 15%. Okay, not too bad. We could be seeing that go on from, I mean, even where we are now, right? Another 15, 20%, we'd be like looking at 130 or more. And you know how sometimes when people get excited about Bitcoin, it goes even higher. So we are still in that liquidity upswing, at least until mid-October, I'd say, before we start to see a bit of a decline. And it's not a terrible decline, even from like that top to that bottom over here on the right. That's 9%. This one's 12%. Not really that much of a concern. Not like the one that happened from December 2024 until April 8th. That was much bigger on the global liquidity, and you could have seen that way ahead of time. Like, even without the tariffs, like, we saw this was there. All right, let's go take a look at Iren. Iren's been on an absolute tear. Iren's been absolutely ripping up here from that 546 all the way up to $34. That is insane. If you pick this up on this low to this high right here, you picked up 554%. That is nuts. if you put in $1,000, you'd be sitting on $5,500 right now on Iren from there. So that's pretty cool. So what am I watching for Iren right now? So a couple of things are going on with Iren. One, we did get above when we got above 28. So 41 is actually in the cards now. It is in the cards. Will it happen? I don't know, but it's in the cards. What am I looking for though? I'm looking for this third angle to break. Right, this one right here. Let me adjust it since we've got more candles painted on there, and I can actually like get a bit of a. There we go. I'm looking for this third angle to break. When this third angle breaks, we're going to come back down to the second angle, which will probably be about $28, $29. We lose that second angle, we're going to hit this angle right here, which again would be about $26. We lose that angle, we come back down. Probably somewhere in March, we're going to come back down to 21-ish or so. And that's when we'll start seeing the flop on this thing. Now, is it happening yet? I don't know, but I do know that insiders have been selling on this thing. Iren has been seeing some insider selling going on. This was from September something. I can look at it in a second. Anyways, yeah, the CEO selling, was that 1 million shares? Yeah, about 1 million shares there of Iren here, and that was from September 10th, so just a couple days ago. And then there was a second one, so there were 2 of them. And there was also the CEO, so 1 million shares. And then let me make sure, let me just check it. And another 1 million shares. So the CEO sold 2 million shares here on September 10th of this one. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything of itself, just that this insiders are seeing this peak here in the 30s as an opportunity to take some profit. That doesn't mean it's going to crater or anything, but it is something to be aware of, that they are indeed selling. But everything's looking pretty hot. I mean, the RSI is pretty hot here, but that can go a little higher. The stochastics are pointing up. The BX trender has been looking great for weeks. This thing could just keep ripping, and that's for sure. I really thought like this was going to be a nice little top there and then come down. I mean, it was a top and it came down to kind of where I thought it would, but I was expecting it to go further. But man, wow, that just took off from there. I mean, even if you got in on that pullback, look at that, all the way up to 130% versus like CleanSpark doing nothing right now. And honestly, I'm looking at this as a consolidation zone. And once we get above like 13, I'm looking at this thing to pop off too. Let's go look at Mara now. So Mara for the week, Mara, let me bring the VP back on. Mara has been consolidating since August, like the beginning of August, it's been consolidating. There's a little spike up. I mean, honestly, it's been consolidating since May. Just consolidating, one little spike up, consolidate. Once we get solidly above this 50-week moving average here, I'm looking at, the equilibrium on here at $20, which, as we know, is kind of like that most traded zone at that $20 range. It really needs to get above 20. Once it's above 20, things look great. But we are also looking at a potential head and shoulders. Like if you want to see the negative side of things, potentially here, head, right, shoulder, and this could take us down to like $12 again. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Mara's doing a lot of things. They are getting into the HPC. They've been making some deals, I believe, with a French company to take over there, and hopefully they can do some stuff stateside. That would be ideal. But if we look at the technicals here, we got BX trenders getting buying pressure coming through this week. The RSI hanging out at around 50. It looks like it wants to cross up on this thing and maybe give us that move up that we're looking for. The stochastics are looking a little wispy, but they are looking like they're ready to cross over and have this go from pink to yellow and from purple to green, which would give me that upward move like we got back here. Let me see, like here in October of last year, or here in March, right, where they got that cross up and then took another like week or two, and then we really started going up. So it is looking like it's about ready to do that. I have been loading up on Mara calls. If you're in Stalagmite, you know exactly where, when, and what product I use to do that. So yeah, I have been loading up on Mara. I've been loading up a little bit on CleanSpark as well. Iren I've been staying away from because I kind of got locked out of that rally, and that's okay. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes that's just the way it is. So I am looking at Mara potentially to come up towards that $23, $24 range to get just touch the bottom of this ascending channel, and eventually I'm thinking it will touch this yellow line up here around 25-ish, 26-ish, and if it gets a euphoric move, we might see it break this yellow, come up to the top of this channel around $40, and that would be like the peak. I think this cycle for Mara would be about 40 if things all go correct, if they get an HPC deal, if they continue to mine a lot of Bitcoin, if they continue to hold their Bitcoin goes up to $170,000, $180,000. I think I could see Mara touching 40 before fading into the winter. Okay, let's take a look at Riot. Riot has been showing some strength here. So Riot has done what I was thinking I'd like to see Mara do, which is break that downtrend. It has broken this downtrend solidly. And as long as it's above this white line here, and I'll pull that a little further out, as long as it's above this white line here, this trend line, it is going to keep going. It's going to keep going. Once it breaks that, it's going to come back down to the base around $11, maybe even as low as $8.65, but that is not this day. The technicals all look good. BX trenders going higher and higher and higher and higher, except that 1 week last week where we got a doji. The RSI is not oversold, but we are getting a little bit of RSI divergence, and I'll draw that on there for you right now. We got a higher high on price, but a lower high on RSI. You can see that. Bloop. Right? You can see the divergence there, so that is showing that there is potentially some divergence. But, I mean, even when you don't get divergence, like back here in July 2023, where RSI went higher, price went higher, it still sold off pretty hard. So that's not a guarantee of anything. Versus, like, here's some pretty wicked divergence here in December 2023 till February 2024, where price didn't go higher, so that's not divergence. Never mind. We're only seeing it here. That doesn't really mean that anything's going to fall, but as long as it's above this white line, I'm not concerned. And I'm looking at Riot to come up to 1838 and potentially all the way up as high as almost 21. Above 21, though, I don't know. Above that, I'm not certain. It could or could not. But, I mean, if we go to, like, let's say a monthly on this thing, if we go to a monthly on this thing and we start looking, look at this. This is just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If we get above 21, this thing's going to rocket up pretty hard on that. And let's see how it looks for the others as well. Mara, yeah, look at this. Mara has basically been in like this consolidating pattern since 2022. And if it can get above, it can break above this little shelf here around $30. Yeah, it could go exponentially higher real fast. CleanSpark has... CleanSpark needs to break out above 24, and then it's got room higher. But we'll see. The market caps would have to be pretty huge for those sort of scenarios. Cifr just breaking out. Let's see, what about Iren? Iren, I am sure, is also going to look a lot like that. Yeah, it had that pattern right there where we would have thought it kept coming back at about 16. But instead of coming back, it broke out, and it broke out explosively. So we could see that on Mara. We could see that on CleanSpark. If my internet could work, we could see that on CleanSpark. I think we saw that on Cifr. We saw that on Iren. We could see it on Riot above about 2021 on Riot as well. So paying attention to those things. Paying attention. Let's move on to Cifr. We'll go back down to the weekly here. Turn on some stuff. Okay. There we are. Okay. Cifr, yeah, this thing broke out. And if you picked it up down here at $1.74, this thing ran 483%. 483% from the bottom there. Look at that. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And that is kind of what I'm expecting. I mean, we're seeing it from these leaders, right? Riot, Cifr, Iren, those all led this time. CleanSpark and Mara are the laggards. They're the laggards, and Wulf too. Wulf led this time. CleanSpark, Mara, those are the laggards. I think when they start to perform, they're going to perform quite nicely. That's what I think. Of course, nothing I say is financial advice, not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. Always do your own research, come to your own conclusion. You're responsible for your own risk because investing is risky and you could lose it all. Cifr. Honestly, the next step for Cifr is to come up and hit 1324 and then 1541. And above 1541, Cifr is just, that's price discovery, and it's just going to keep going. So right now, I'd really like to see Cifr maybe slow down a little bit, come back down to about $10, maybe touch this blue line down here, and then carry on. But it doesn't have to. I mean, look at this inverted head and shoulders that came through. Look at this thing. We had the arm there, right shoulder, head, shoulder, and boom. And let's see if it fit to what I like to measure for this one. Let me see here. Let's see if it fit that measurement or not. I don't think it did yet, because we'd be looking at about there. Yeah, we're almost to the top of that tippy top of that measurement, which would be about 1163. So yeah, very, very possible 1163, and that corresponds. Does it correspond with anything on the left there? Not really. Kind of no man's land in between those two peaks, but yeah. We're looking at that for Cifr. Cifr, as long as it doesn't break this line right here, I'm not concerned. If it breaks this line, I will be concerned. This white one now, this dotted one, let me actually, it went so straight up, I need to move it to that spot right there. Boom. If it breaks this line, I'll be looking at it to come back down to this line, which would be very dramatic for Cifr. So we're watching that one carefully. I think this one's a bit overheated now. I think the move is in on that one. Worst case scenario right now, I think we come back to test $8, which would be this previous high here from the cycle, from a previous from July 2024, about $8. That'd be like worst case scenario right now before it carries on through the end of the year. But I don't know if you'll get that. And same with the warrants. Like look at these warrants, 364. These things went from 20 cents to $3.64. This is the kind of move I'm looking at for Cifr, or for not for Cifr, for CleanSpark warrants, right? Look at this. That is on the warrants, you got an 1800%, 1800%, 18x your money on the warrants. This is why I'm in the CleanSpark warrants, by the way. Because if CleanSpark does an 1800% move from its lows, if it does an 1800% move from its lows, let me go ahead and just make that smaller, turn off the drawing so you can see it. About 1800 would take this thing, if it does the same move as Cifr, just the same move as Cifr, which wasn't that crazy of a move. It was only 400% on the underlying. We're looking at $3, which would take my 15,000 shares to $45,000. If I re-upped it back to the 30,000 original, we'd be looking at $90,000 on CleanSpark warrants. So that's why I hold those. And I've been going into the call options on it as well for CleanSpark, because I think I should have probably just held that half a stack, but I wanted to pick it up back down here. It didn't go quite low enough for me, but that's okay. I still have half my stack. Let's take a look at Corz. How's Corz doing on the weekly? We've got no VP on this one for the weekly, so we'd have to drop it down. But this one's still following that core weave trajectory because they are being bought, and you can see that it's back and forth on the BX trender. The RSI is kind of back and forth. The stochastics are super wispy. Like I don't really see anything on here, and I probably wouldn't trade this one until we know for certain if core weave's going to buy them or not, for sure. Yeah, but it is above 1544, so it is opened up to 1821. It's opened up to 1821 from here, so it could make that move. And once it gets above 1821, then the all-time high will obviously be a struggle at 1870, but then 2098 is the next level after that. On the way down, as long as we're above 1372, we'll hold this line. Below 1372, then we drop to 1252 and then $11. But I'd be looking at Core Weave more than Corz right now, just because Core Weave is trying to buy them. And if we look at the warrants, similar sort of story playing out. Similar sort of story playing out right here, right? It came down, up. It's getting kind of trapped in this little zone right here for that. So I'd be waiting for that. HUT is one I've been making a big win off of. Big win off of HUT. Let me turn off the drawings for a second. Big win on HUT. I got into HUT somewhere back here on this pullback, and then I held through this one and added, and then it's just been popping off. HUT's been doing great. It's actually hitting my target right now. So I do need to make a decision. I'm up well over 200% on my HUT calls right now, and if you're in Stalagmite, you likely are as well. It is, so the RSI is a bit overbought right now, but not terribly so. The stochastics are still pointing straight up, and it does look like last week's little candle there was a good little bull flag, and then boom, it continued on. So this could do another week or two of this movement here right now, actually. So I'm not too concerned. I'm actually not concerned about HUT as long as it holds. So this channel's donezo. This line right here, consider cutting. Well, I didn't. Let's get rid of that one. Let me get rid of this one. Yeah, as long as, well, no, I'll leave it right there. So as long as it's above this white line right here, this one right here, I'm really not concerned right now. It would have to come all the way back down to $27 to go under that line. So that would suck for my calls. But like, I can't be concerned, like, because that's the bullish trend, right? And honestly, the mega underlying bullish trend is right here, which would mean it'd have to come as low as $23 to break. So if I go down to the daily real quick, just the daily, you can see right here, yeah, I'm looking at this as my third angle, or maybe even for it to pop it off even harder and see where it goes from there. But the weekly's looking good. Lots of pressure. We closed the week above 32.11, which means we are opened up to $41 on HUT. HUT is opened to $41. So I'm going to continue to hold my calls for now. I think if we lose $30, I'll probably start selling my HUT calls and take some profit on that. But for now, it is showing that this candle is very strong and it could push higher. Like what happened last time, it went from the high of the candle before and it pushed up another 7.5%. So if we push up another 7.5% before we drop, that would be about almost $35. So I'm going to watch $35 very carefully. Watch this. I'm going to put an alert right there, and I'm just going to write caution. And that's going to be an area where I watch for HUT, for caution, like is it going to roll over here or not? We'll see. I would be, yeah, I'm thinking this, yeah, this fib, it could easily go up to 41 from here, and that'd be pretty exciting, actually. So looking at that, and 41 would correspond quite well with this formation back here on the left. And if it can get above that, 46 opens. If it gets above 46, 70 opens, and that would be crazy. But, you know, crazier things have happened. So that's what's going on with HUT. Let's take a look at Wulf. Wulf is still in this. So after that Google buy, it is still just barcoding in this zone right here. I'm not like HUT. Wulf needs to get above 1129. It needs to get above 1129. Above 1129, it can go higher. But until then, it's just going to go between 1129 and about 870. As long as it's holding above this 867 area, it's probably going to continue up and drive higher. And honestly, we take out this little section here on the left, we get above that 1145, 1150-ish, we should see it start to climb higher up towards that $18, $19, maybe even as high as 26 on a wicked blow off top. And like it did in 2021, maybe even as high as 42, 43 again. We'll see. We'll see what happens. This time we went lower than that though, so I don't know if I would, lower than its previous lows, so I don't know if I would expect it to go that high again. Maybe we'd be only reaching towards like 33, 34. But again, that could happen. Will it happen? I don't know, because that's a long way to go from here. But it is, you know, a speculation that we could make based off of previous actions that came up, right? It did this very similar before, right? It came down, 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 drove up a little bit, big spike, flat, big spike, flat, and then at the very end of the year, right? Very end of the year, drive higher, boom, and then flat again, boom, boom, boom. A couple of just big explosive moves. So that could happen with Wulf as well. So paying attention there. HIVE is another one I'm up about 160% on. This one has been consolidating here between about $6 and $1 since 2022. Just boom, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This last sell-off was pretty good, and that sell-off, that dramatic sell-off, like how long and how deep that went from November 2024 all the way down to April 2025, that could be the fuel that feeds us. Once we get above that 545, that could be the fuel that pops us all the way up to 11, 12, maybe even as high as that previous cycle in 2021, which was up here in the $28 level. Now, they've diluted since then, so I mean, maybe not, but let's take a look at that. Since HIVE has diluted since 2021, to get back to this high, it would need to do a significant move. Like if we go here, this is a 13G filing for HIVE from, what day was it? August 13th, 2025. And you can see right here, they have 229.6 million shares currently outstanding. And if we go back here to company market cap and we look at this number's wrong, so it's not up to date for current numbers, but in the past, in 2022, they had 82 million shares. So that is about a factor of 2.8 or so. I did 229 divided by 82, so it's slightly off, but about a factor of nearly 3. So if we go back to 2021 and we look at their market cap, they were at 1.5 billion. So that would have to get their market cap would have to go up to about 4.5 billion just to get back to, my computer would work, 4.5 billion just to get back to $28. So there is that. But we have been seeing this long consolidation for a while. So once we get above 548, yes, it could absolutely moon up that high. It could do it. 5 billion's not that much anymore, but just something to keep in mind for those of us that are invested, that to understand that this isn't just as easy as doing what it did before. It actually needs to do 3 times what it did before to get that high, again, in terms of market cap. All right, Bitfarms has been on a tear. I've been in Bitfarms. As everyone knows, I had to sell some calls for a loss because I saw this double bottom come through, and I got in right before it crossed the neckline on it, and it went flat for about from July and August and the first part of September there. It was going flat, so I ended up having to close those for a loss and re-up, and since then I've made back everything I lost and then some. I'm up currently over 300% on this move here just this week, which is up 72%. And what we've seen in the past is it'll move 50, 60%, and then the next week it'll do it again, and the next week it might just do it again. So if we were to watch right now, my target since we blew past, like this huge engulfing candle, we blew past this point of control on the volume profile. As long as we stay above that, which is 215, so as long as we're above 215, I am currently eyeing $3 on Bitfarms. I'm eyeing $3 on Bitfarms, which would be another several 100% on my calls that are out till January. I am looking for that $3 move. If things get really wild, maybe even looking at 4, possibly 5 for this thing. Yeah, that's really, that double bottom really came in. We're at the extent of that double bottom right now. It could go a little higher to reach the top of that double bottom, which would be about 234. I'm watching this red line here as a potential area where it would roll over, but as long as it's holding this white line here, which is from the trend from below there, which it's on the daily, on the weekly it looks a little messier, but you know, as long as it comes back, hits that line and then bounces, I'm looking at 3, 4 Bitfarms, and you can see this is the biggest volume bar ever. Look at that, biggest volume bar by more than a third ever, buying or selling, happened here on Bitfarms this week. That is the biggest amount of buying. You can see that little green line. It's very thin. Let me make it wider. It's very thin, right? It was there, but look at this. It's about a third bigger than the biggest bar ever recorded on Bitfarms. So that tells me something. Last time we got that, it just kept going. So that is an institutional buy. Institutions are back in Bitfarms, I would say, based on that. So don't sell them short yet. I am looking for that $3. Maybe if things get wild, $4. But I don't know if I'd count it much past that. Something's going on with Bitfarms, and it's going to be interesting. And I'm happy to be back in it, especially with call options. I said, I mean, I've dunked on Bitfarms plenty over the last year and a half, but I stopped once I saw this double bottom coming in. I stopped and I said, there's a chance that could go to $2, and it blew past $2. And when it blows past something like that with volume like this, that says continuation to me. So I'll be holding on to that, looking for a further move up. My only regret is taking my cost basis out, so it's all pure profit right now. So I mean, that's great. So I have no stress about it. But yeah, I'm in pure profit and it's great. Let's take a look at Btdr. Btdr actually had a nice, okay, Btdr had a nice week. The volume bar was above average, nice, not the biggest volume bar it's ever seen, but not too bad. We got above the point of control. We got above this trend line here. We are coming out of this little heartbeat pattern right here, right? This little back and forth here. We're coming out of this thing. If we go just a little higher next week, this could easily push to the top of this channel, which would be about $21, $22 on Btdr. Btdr is waking up. The laggards are waking up. Look at the BX trender. The BX trender is nice. That's a nice big push. It looks, if it continues next week, yeah, this could easily go to the top. That could easily go to $21, no problem. The RSI is looking good. The stochastics aren't looking great, but they are looking like they're both, it's green and yellow, so things are looking positive. So it's not the best thing I've ever seen. This falling wedge might finally be playing out here. And if you've noticed, just like with Bitfarms, where it had this double bottom and went sideways for a long time of consolidating before popping up, that's what we saw with Btdr here, right? We got this falling wedge. It came up, consolidated for a long time, and now it's breaking up. This thing might run to 21. On a good day, it might even hit 26. So don't count Btdr out. Btdigital had a decent week, not a great week, but a decent week. Again, Btdigital is really just an Ethereum treasury company now, and there are better Ethereum treasury companies out there than Btdigital. So I really don't see any reason to be buying this thing right now. And that's not to say that it can't do a move back up to $5, $6. It's done it multiple times before. It probably could do it again, but Bitmine is a better Ethereum treasury. SBET is a better Ethereum treasury. There are better Ethereum treasuries out there. That's all this company does now. So I am personally not interested at all in Btdigital any longer. With that said, the stochastics look like they're ready to make a nice move up. The RSI is coming to life there. The BX trender is showing buying pressure coming through. It is coming off of a falling wedge, so it could easily move up to about 424. Remember though, they don't have HPC anymore. There is no AI in Btdigital anymore. It's all white fiber now. They spun that off. They spun that off to white fiber. And white fiber's been not doing much. Like, it's kind of, this is its first weekly candle, right? Opened at 25, immediately dumped down to 13, and now it's trying to work its way back up inside candle after inside candle. In here, back up to 25. I'm really not interested in white fiber anywhere below $25, largely because it's just printing inside candles, which means it could go all the way up to 25 in a day or as low as 15 in a day. And until I get a candle below 15 or above 25, I'm really not interested in white fiber. So, they also mine almost no Bitcoin anymore. So I really don't see a reason to hold Btdigital. It's just going to go back and forth, I think, between like 2 and maybe 5 over and over again, which is 100% return. It's nothing to sneeze at, but I just think there are better plays out there than Btdigital. That's just my opinion, of course. If you differ on your opinion or you're invested in Btdigital, let us know. Let us know why Btdigital over any other Ethereum treasuries, and let's see how that is. See what you think there. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's poised, possibly ready to move up to 423, maybe even as high as 581, but I don't see it really breaking out past that. I don't see any reason why it would. Cang, the new one on the block here. So this one is interesting. It's got an underlying car business where they sell used cars or auction cars, something like that. Can't remember exactly. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. But the stochastics look bad on this one still. The RSI is kind of looking weak right here, and the BX trender is showing stronger selling pressure. So this one needs to get above 559. Above 559. This line right here. It's got to get above that. And do I have this only once? No, per bar. We're doing per bar. Once it gets above this and starts trading above this move here back up to about 964, potentially even as high as $14 is in play. Until then, I'm not interested. I'm just going to wait and I'm going to watch. Like, in fact, I'm going to delete this line because that line doesn't matter. The only line that matters is this one right here, 562. That's all that matters. I know I probably said a different one before, but we see it came up like this, right? And that's going sideways and it's consolidating, consolidating, consolidating. And then once it breaks this line, it's going to go fast. It's going to go fast up, big time. So watch it. Watch it carefully. And it could do it in after hours or pre-market. Anything could happen. So pay attention. Like I'm looking, right? I'm looking at least 820. But the nature of this type of company, I'm looking higher because of just the nature of the company. So pay attention right here. This one is coiling. This one's getting very interesting. This one looks a lot like Bitfarms, where we had a bottom, another bottom, and it came up and it consolidated, 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 consolidated. Once it gets above that, though, boom, right through the roof. So be ready for that on Can Go. Let's take a look, not BMNR. Let's go to Can. All right, Can, still not doing much. It was up 16% last week. I think it will continue to do exactly like it did back here. Exactly like it did back here. Until... like, look at this. This was about the time Bitcoin was peaking, was when it finally started moving. So we're looking for Bitcoin to peak, and then I think this one's going to move, which I think means we're going to be looking not in November, probably closer to like mid-October. So we got a couple more weeks. As soon as this thing peaks above the 50 right here, see how it did it right there? Right there. As soon as it peaks above the 50 here at $1.05, as soon as it peaks above that price, and it does anything above that, right? It pauses for even a second, that's the time to catch it. And it's probably going to go up to $2, $3, maybe even as high as $4 or $5, since this is the blow off moment for Bitcoin. So watch Can for that move. I'm in Soluna for the exact same move. I'm in Soluna for the exact same move. Look at this on the weekly. Look at this thing. It's disgusting. Let me delete this one. That falling wedge is over. This one I also don't care about. And that one I also don't care about. Okay. Look at this. I'm looking for a similar move on Soluna. Look back here, right? Once it breaks, I think in this case, the 10, is that the 10 or the 20? Let me bring up my EMAs. That one is the 20. So as soon as it gets back above the 20, which is very close to right now, actually. It's very close to right now. And then we get some closure above that, and it doesn't immediately dump the next week. I'm looking at the 50 at about 185. It conquers the 50, which it has not done since when the heck was the last time this thing was above the 50? August 2020 was the last time it conquered the 50. Does this look familiar at all though? Like this little move down here. Let me do this. Let me get some crayons going in here and like that. Let me just take that and see if it applies at all. Let's make it really tiny though, because this thing's schmool. All right, here we go. Whoops, I'm moving things I shouldn't move. Let's have a look. Does this at all play like that? Kind of, a little bit. That looks pretty familiar actually. So yeah, once we break that 20, like look at this, it's just goes up, comes down, 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 does a little up move, which was about right there. And then down, 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 which we might be at the lower end. And then once we conquer that 50, which would be about right here, it's showing January, so I don't know about that. But it might have to squeeze a little tighter there. Maybe something like this, maybe. So it'd be like October, right? Once it does that, and then it pops up and it's showing like, I mean, 10 bucks, that'd be wild. I don't think that's going to happen. But, I mean, it's a fun little thing to toy with. I'll leave that there for now, just to see what happens. This week has been, if you look, this week, right here, the most volume ever recorded on Soluna. The most volume ever recorded by a long shot. Again, by about a third, just like on Bitfarms. Meaning something's going on in here. Something's going on in here. So I'm holding on to my 2,000 shares that I have of this thing that I bought down at, you know, on the lows here about 40, 50 cents. And I'm just going to let those ride. I'm going to let those ride. Maybe it'll hit $10. Maybe something crazy will happen. It'll come even higher. I don't know. I'm just going to hold on to them. I'm just going to hold on to them, see what happens. All right. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description, as well as the channel bio. Don't sleep on the stalagmite level. We're in the end here. We're on the last leg, that final push. If you want to see what we're doing, how I'm managing this, that's going to be the stalagmite level of the channel members section, where you get the real-time trade posts and the members only videos every week. And then if you want to just be supportive of the channel, and I appreciate everyone that does so, we've got the badges, emojis, early access to the videos, priority reply to comments, and that early access while it's processing up to HD, you get that. And member shoutouts at Stalactite, and have a profitable day.